Hi, welcome to the Watch and Whisper channel where if I'm interested, I'm talking about it. Now, I know it's been a few days and I'm trying to catch back up with my Dr. Death reviews. This is for episode 6 and it starts with Dr. Death's paralyzed friend Chris laying in a bed. And it's when he actually realizes that he's paralyzed. Well, Dr. Death performed surgery on him on episode 5. So if you haven't seen episode 5, go check out episode 5 and you can catch right up on episode 6. Well, Chris is paralyzed and he realizes it that he can't move and he's laying in his bed and he's screaming for Dr. Death. He's calling for his friend Chris. He doesn't call him Dr. Dunce or Dr. Death. He's calling for his friend Chris. So at that moment when he's calling for his friend Chris and not Dr. Dunce, he's showing that there's a personal connection between those two. He's not calling for his doctor. He's actually calling for his friend Chris. And he screams. And when he's screaming, he's in agony. So he's actually asking for him to move. A doctor comes into his room and the doctor is saying, can you move your arms? Can you move your legs? Move your shoulders? Move something. Well, there's a minimal movement in his shoulders. And the doctor that's standing there is telling him, that's improvement. You're moving a little bit. And I'm reading from my notes because I had to take plenty of notes for episode 6 because a lot was happening in episode 6 because they're getting ready to wind the series down because there's only 8 episodes. So everything is going to be happening between 6 and 8. We already went through the craziness of Dr. Death, episodes 1 through 5. Now everything is going to start pulling together so that we can get over to episode 8 and end out the series. Well, the anesthesiologist comes in there and starts talking to Chris and asking some questions because she is trying to determine if the paralysis that he's experiencing is something that was caused by the anesthesia. Well, they didn't go into a lot of conversation. Dr. What's his name? Jerry just pretty much told the doctor, I want to see my doctor. I want to see my doctor. If you can just pretty much get the F out. Well, next scene, you see him being wheeled somewhere down a hall in a hospital, and he can't move, but he's talking, "Hey, where are you taking me? Where are you taking me?" And they tell him, "Well, there's been imaging that's ordered, and we're going to take you to the MRI. We're going to take you to imaging to have these images done." Well, they're rolling him through, and you see him laying in an MRI, or it could be a CT machine. I'm not sure which one, but you see him laying there. And I thought it was really strange that they told him, okay, don't move. You have to be still. I'm like, well, damn, he's paralyzed. So how is he going to move? That was very insensitive of whoever the person was. But he's laying there and then he started screaming and he can't feel anything. So I'm not really sure why he's screaming, but those screams are coming from a place of agony and a place of trauma. And he's just screaming. And I was like, wow, that shows you what his mental state had to be at the moment when he's getting ready to go through this machine. Because again, this is his friend Jerry and he's paralyzed. But you can hear the agony in all of his wails. And let's see. So he started screaming when he was going into the machine. The next scene cuts to Michelle Shugart, who's the ADA, who's going to be on Dr. Death's case, and who's trying to get all of her evidence together to take him to trial. And she starts going to see a couple of families that had dealings with Dr. Chris Dunst. Some of the people say, hey, we don't want to talk to you about him. We don't even want to hear his name. We just don't want to have any dealings with him. And then there was some who say, well, they still think he's a good doctor. So from there, you see Michelle, the ADA, talking. It cuts to her being back in the office and she's talking to one of her coworkers. And she pretty much said, you know what? I want to see him die in jail. Because she see the frustration that these families are going through. She see the evidence of what he's done from a criminal perspective. But again, they're going to have a very difficult time proving this in court. So it cuts Dr. Henderson and Dr. Kirby. They're discussing Dr. Death responding to a social media post. And in that particular social media post, he's saying that Dr. Henderson and Kirby are just on a witch hunt to take his license from him and to try to just sully his name. And it was at that moment, it was kind of funny because it was at that moment when Dr. Henderson said, well, how did he make a comment? At that moment, you knew right then he's not very social media savvy. And it took Dr. Kirby, Dr. Kirby's flip at the mouth. It took Dr. Kirby pretty much to tell him he commented in the comment section. So that was pretty funny. That was a little light. They lightened the mood in that particular scene. when they talked about Dr. What's his name? Dr. Death responded to the social media post. He was pretty much saying that he didn't do anything wrong, which he never takes any accountability for anything. So from that scene, it cuts to 2014, and it cuts to Dr. Death eating at his parents' house, and his father was praying. And Dr. Death looks like he was all spaced out at the dinner table and probably just disgusted because he had to move home. Remember, again, this story bounces from the present to the past to, it goes back and forth, present and past, present and past. When now they're again in 2014, he's having dinner, and this is after he's arrested yet again. And the doctor says, so do you and your son, Dr. Dunt's father asked him, do your son and your girlfriend fit into your future plans? And there was a long pause. But with that long pause, it let you know that Dr. Dunt really had no intention of his son and Wendy being a part of his plans. But he had to play it off to the dad because the dad was adamant that he needed to do right by his family. And although he and Wendy were not married, Wendy was still his family because that's his son's mother. But there was a long pause, and then he said yes, that they were going to be a part of his future plans because Chris was planning on trying to go to another facility and gain privileges to perform surgeries there. So it was at that point that they were eating dinner, and Chris' father gets up from the table and starts listening to the messages on the answering machine. You know, again, this is 2014, so he still had to push the button, listen to the callers leaving their messages. Well, every call was a creditor, and it was for Chris. And the father was a little perturbed because now you're bringing this, all of these negative calls into my home. Chris jumps up from the table, bam! He hits the answering machine and tells his father, "Stay out of my business." I was like, "What in the hell did he just say?" He told his father to stay out of his business. The father said, "Your business is in my home. Your business was brought to me." Pretty much saying, your ass sitting at my dinner table eating up all my pasta because you can't get your shit together. But you're asking me to stay out of your business. You are now my business. His father told him, when you live in this house, you're going to follow my rules. And what you're going to do is go and file bankruptcy so that you can just have all this washed away. And so his father said, yeah, go and file bankruptcy because you're staying in my house. And this is a way for you to get a clean slate and with a fresh start. So with that being said, hey, I just want to tell everybody, if you need to file bankruptcy, don't feel ashamed. You go file bankruptcy to get a fresh start. This is for anybody. I'm not talking about Dr. Dunt's show anymore. I'm talking about real life, everyday people living right here, right now. Bankruptcy is not a bad thing. I know several people who have had to file for bankruptcy. There's nothing to be ashamed about. I personally have not done it. But hey, if the situation got to that point and I needed to, and I needed to get some of those debts and creditors off me, trust me, I would look into it. But back to the show, Dr. Dunt's Dr. Death. That's what his real name is, Dr. Death, with his low down ass. But yeah, his daddy pretty much told him, you need to get your shit together and go file bankruptcy. Yes, told him, if you're going to stay in my house, this is what you're going to do. Let's see. The next scene cuts to Dr. Duntz, who has not learned his lesson. This clown is driving while drinking. And you can see in his face, he's continuing to spiral out of control. He's driving his car, so you know the camera is right here in his face. And there's just a blank look in his eyes. And he's holding a whole bottle of liquor while he's driving. And then you see the lights and the sirens coming behind him. And right then, you know his ass going to jail again. He just can't get it together. Cannot get it together. What makes him think he's invincible and he can just drink and drive? And you're still trying to get your medical license back, dumbass. But anyway, okay, so then it cuts back to February 2012. Because remember, we were in 2014. Now it cuts back to February in 2012. And he's talking to Jerry and lying to him again. He's talking to Jerry about the surgery. He's lying to Jerry. And he pretty much told Jerry, it's not, it was all the fault of the anesthesiologist. They gave you the wrong amount of anesthesia. This is why you're having all these problems. And then it cuts to Kim talking to Jerry because he's telling, Dr. Duntz is telling Jerry, it's all their fault. You're going to be okay. And he walked out of the room. But Kim was kind of standing behind Dr. Duntz, knowing he was lying all along. And she went out to the hall and asked him, why did you tell him that? Pretty much, why are you giving Jerry false hope? And he said, prepper room. We're going to go back in. He needs to have surgery. And she looked at him like, you're kidding me, right? And he was like, prep the room. We're going to have surgery. And she immediately said, well, what if we ask I'm going to just say Dr. Scott. What if we ask Dr. Scott? And he gave her a look like, are you serious? That's my patient. I'm going back in. Well, all along, Kim, knowing you're not going to do anything more for him than what you've already done, which is pretty much mucked up his life because he's paralyzed. So that's how that ended. The next scene, it cuts to Jerry laying in the bed, and two nurses are washing his legs down, and he has this giant halo, and he's laying in the bed, and he just starts talking, and he just starts blurting out, the day before my surgery, me and Dr. Dunce were doing something we weren't supposed to be doing. So check out the show so you can see what he's saying that him and Dr. Dunce did the day before his surgery. So that just brings all of this alarm to the nurses. They take it to the administrator. The next scene cuts to the administrator talking to Dr. Dunce and Kim, both in her office, and talking about the allegations that Jerry told to the nurses. And Dr. Dunce, as he always do, lie, lie, and lie. And Kim is sitting there because she knows this clown sitting next to her is lying to the administrator. The administrator say, okay, I'm going to need you both to take this particular test. Kim say, hey, bring it on. I'll do it. Not now, but right now, I'll take the test. Dr. Dunce is sitting there giving every reason why he shouldn't and how it's everybody's fault and how he did nothing wrong. And then he reluctantly said, okay, I'll take the test. Well, that's how that scene ended. And let's see, the next thing, he pretty much lost his privileges to perform surgery at Baylor. Alrighty, okay. And it was to no one's surprise that Dr. Death just kept with the excuses. Why he couldn't do this, why this is wrong, why that is wrong. And then so it cuts back to him and Jerry having a conversation. He finally went to Jerry's room. And for whatever reason, he kept blowing Jerry off. He wasn't really answering all his questions. And then Jerry asked him, will I ever walk again? And it was at that moment that you can see the sadness in Jerry's face because he's asking not his doctor, but he's asking his friend, will I ever walk again? And he told Jerry, you ruined my life. You ruined everything for me. Good luck. I was like, well, goddamn, you just tell him good luck like that? Wow. And the look in his eyes said that I'm really not feeling what you got going on. I don't care that you can't work. I'm sorry that you can't walk. You ruined my life. I said, well, ain't that a B? How just heartless. But that's why that Dr. Death gonna get what's coming to him. So let's see. Next, you see him at his house doing drugs, completely still spiraling out of control. And he went to talk to a psychiatrist. He did something with the psychiatrist. He told the psychiatrist that he needed something, and the psychiatrist was not thinking that Dr. Dunce is playing on him, but you keep watching the show, you're going to see how that conversation and what he asked the psychiatrist for. Well, the ADA Shugart went to see Kim. Kim told her about an email she received from Dr. Death. Well, I'm not going to tell you what the email was about because you need to watch the show and get in totality what was in that email. Very, very interesting. You know, if it's interesting, I'm going to talk about it. Well, the email is going to play a huge part in the rest of the scenes, rest of the episodes 7 and 8. So just remember this email that Kim is talking about in episode 6. And But Kim did say she wondered, after what Dr. Dunce said in the email, if he was making these mistakes on his patients on purpose. Keep that in mind. Just remember that. That was one of the things she was concerned about. Let's see. Dr. Kirby and Dr. Henderson went to talk to ADA Shugart, and they were just burning the midnight oil, trying to figure out what, how were they going to approach this trial for Dr. Dunce. And they were all tired. They were spent. They say, hey, let's just go have lunch. Let's go run and get dinner. Maybe they can give us the senior citizen discount. And at that moment, the light went off for Michelle Schubert. She said, that's it. Elder abuse. So keep that in mind. Elder abuse. So the light went off. Let's see what else happened. The scene cuts to Dr. Death going to Wendy's house. Now this was pretty interesting right here. He went over to Wendy's house, but it wasn't when he was supposed to be there. When you have custody, there's a set date you're supposed to go and see your child, and it's all lined out so that you don't have any issues. This fool went over there and pretty much wanted to see his son, walked in, told her, I pay for this apartment. She said, no, you don't, your daddy do. I say that should have made his ass feel real low, because she said, no, you don't, your daddy do. He was talking to the son, and there was a tenderness when he was talking to his son. And at that time, he seemed like an actual human, because there seemed like there was a tenderness when he was engaging with his son. Baby, the next thing you know, bam, that door opened and some dude walked in. I don't know who he was, but he came in with a bat and he did the boop boop, gave him a two-piece. He wove Dr. Death ass out, kicked him out the house, hit him with the bat, and was just wailing on him outside the room. I'm sorry, outside the apartment. Scene cuts to this clown is crying on the phone to his daddy. Daddy, 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 I got robbed. He ain't tell his daddy got his ass whooped. What he says, I got robbed, please send me some money, I need help. The daddy did what the daddy always do. The dad has a soft spot for him, like every parent does for their children. And he sent him the money. The next scene, he's in the store filling up his basket. And I'm like, wow, the dad must have sent him enough money, because he's filling up his basket, getting all the stuff that he wants. I'm being quiet because I cannot believe he filled up the basket, got all the money from the daddy, walked his ass right on out the store. Yep, he stole it. He walked right out the store without paying, and guess what? They threw his ass right on back in jail. And you know who had to call? His daddy. And the dad is just frustrated with him. And the dad is just ready to give up, it seems like. So you're going to have to watch the rest of episode 6. I didn't tell you everything. Watch episode 6 and then be prepared to watch episode 7. Like I said, they're winding this series up. So thank you so much for watching my review of episode 6 of Dr. Death. And I'll be coming back with episode 7 maybe tomorrow. All right. Thank you for coming in, watching my review. Please like, share, subscribe if you like what you see. And get down in the comments. Let me know if you're watching Dr. Death. It's good. Let me know if you're watching it. All right. Talk to you later. Bye, London. Bye, Bam.